Now for you as teachers now, I'm gonna just elaborate something again. Just 4 seconds for the others. Okay. As I told you again, now you are teachers. I'm talking to teachers now, not students. Here I started with this part. This is called what? This is called a lead in. This is called what? A lead in. I'm leading the students into the lesson by focusing on one meaning, which is the unknown subject. We don't know this subject, okay? So they will keep this in mind. And when we move on, here I'm also leading them in, but leading them into what? I'm leading them into the context. This is the idea of what here? When I'm providing a context to students, this is the idea of what? Ms. Dua asked a very important question. Is this similar to warming up? Yes, actually, leading in and warming up, they are the same, but they have only one difference. The difference is that the warming up actually is not an introduction for the lesson, doesn't lead in to the lesson. You may get your students warmed up by actually stretching their bodies or moving or jumping in their place. This is a warm up, but this doesn't lead to the lesson. The lead in should lead to the lesson. Why didn't we begin with this part? We started with this actually. Okay, I'm now recalling what happened. Okay, so again, please answer this question. When we provide a context for student, this is called what? Yes, Mr. Muhammad. We actually call this contextualization. Is it the same session? Yes, it's the same session. I'm just focusing on what we had done in the first one. Contextualization, because we are providing a context, and this is the context. Here we have different questions. The first one is the most general question, and we call it just question. And then we have more specific question. What I mean by specific question, it needs one short answer, like a date, a number, or a date, or name. This is the meaning of specific question. And then we have, this is also a specific question because here we have a number. And this is detailed question. What is the difference between specific question and detailed question? Detailed question is much longer than the specific question. So we have 3 types of questions that we might ask in a text, for a text like this. The just, which is the general one, and specific and detailed question, okay? No, I mean, why did you use the picture of the boy and the juice? Okay, I used the picture of the boy and the juice to lead in to the rule itself, because I'm gonna talk about what? I'm gonna talk about the passive, but the students still don't know what exactly I'm gonna be talking about. And then I use the second pictures to lead in the context. Instead of jumping into the context immediately, no, I started to lead in the students gradually. So I led them into the lesson, the rule, and I led them into the context. By using what? Simply by using pictures. So here my students are prepared and ready, okay? They are excited about what they will be doing. Okay, this is great. Now, after we finish this, I should not expect to have much time in this, because this is not a reading lesson. This is a grammar lesson. Here, as I said, we chose some parts. Here I'm clarifying the target language. Here the target language is now, you know, they are focusing on it. I'm grasping the attention of my students toward these two sentences. And I'm using colors. I'm using what? Colors. I color this part and the verb and that one. Okay? And then after, in order to check their understanding, I started to ask some questions, some CCQs. What is the meaning of CCQs? CCQs are concept, or we can say comprehension, checking, questions. And instead of asking my students, do you get it? Do you understand? I have to ask some CCQ questions. And if you downloaded the lesson plan, you will find the CCQs. I wrote the questions. Okay, so do you think the Titanic built itself? No, it didn't build itself. So here they understand that this is not the subject. Titanic is not the subject. Do you think that the magazine printed themselves? They will say no. So they understand that the magazines here are not the subject. They are what? They are the object. Do we know this, the subject? They will say no. So they understand that we are talking about the mysterious subject, the hidden subject. So here I'm following up with their competence, their understanding. I can gauge and measure their understanding by CCQs, by asking concept check-in questions. So please do not ask, are you following? If this fine, so far so good. These questions will not help you as a teacher to evaluate their understanding, okay? And here I gave them a sentence to check, are they following or not? And then I move to what? And here, I'm here, I wrote the name of the rule. So what is the structure that I followed? I followed the structure of MFP. I started with meaning. How did I start with meaning? Because I grasped their attention to the idea of mysterious subject. We don't know who did this. So this is the meaning. And I asked some questions. Then I moved to the form. I wrote the form. I said object plus verb to be plus past participle. Okay, and I discussed the tenses is, are, was, were. So here I wrote the form to students. You should write the form for them. And then I dropped out one step, which is the pronunciation. I should have said what? I should have said Titanic was built. Say after me, was built. So this is the transcription, was built. And this is where printed. I should actually model the target language by saying was built, and students would say after me, were printed, okay? Something of the sort. So here I checked what? I checked the meaning, checked the form, and checked the pronunciation. Now let's see your comments. Excellent. This is inductive, and it's also a student-centered. Here, the students are doing the whole job. I'm just guiding them. And this is, as I told you, this is the what? This is the controlled practice. And what do we mean by controlled practice? It means I need only one correct answer. Only one correct answer. This is the meaning of controlled. Rule discovery method. No, the rule discovery method is it's the deductive. It's called rule discovery, but this is guided discovery. The inductive is guided discovery. This is the inductive. Okay, so what's the meaning of controlled practice? Only one answer. Okay, and then we play the game. This is to engage them more. Now we have a task, another task. What is this task? I'm gonna ask the student to do what? We have here verbs. How could you control students' curiosity? They may easily unfold it. No, you have to give clear instructions and you monitor. You are now going through the groups after you divided them, okay? And you have to say this, if anyone unfolded his paper or his sheet, he will lose. So no one will risk this. They need to collect as many marks as they can. So no one will risk this. Is pair work important than this type of question? I don't understand the question, Ms. Asma. In this type of questions, yeah, actually, you can actually, this is up to you. You want to make it pair work or group work, this is up to you. And actually, it's also related to the number of students in your class. Okay?
انت يا ابني.
Are you following with me? Okay. Now, here, this is another task, another type of task, but this is called what? It's called semi-controlled. Why semi-controlled? It's controlled because I gave them these verbs. I'm asking them to use these verbs. And it's semi-controlled because they will make up their sentences. I don't know what they will write about. Yes, they are all muted now. Okay, so it's called semi because I don't know what exactly they will write about. This is up to the students. And it's controlled because they will not choose any verb. They have to stick to this controlled list of verbs. You got it? And I will give them some time. So they are gonna be working in groups. I need 4 sentences. So if they are a group of 4, each student is gonna be asked to write or provide 1 sentence, okay? I forgot to mention something. I talked about something called ICQs. What is ICQs? I talked about CCQs. What is ICQs? Do you have any idea about ICQs? Write this in the chat bar, please. Yeah, rule discovery method. Okay, I got confused about driven and discovery. Yes. Instruction checking question. Yes, instruction checking questions. So if you are now giving some instructions to your student before they start the task, before they start doing it, you have to make sure that your students understand exactly what they are supposed to be doing. So you ask some ICQs questions like what I have done. Are you going to work in pairs or individual? And you said pairs. Are you going to work in for 5 minutes or 2 minutes? You said, for example, 2 minutes. Okay. Are you going to answer in 1 word or full sentence? It's full sentences because you answered in full sentences. So this is the ICQs. Some teachers give the instructions and sometimes their instructions are not clear. So the students get confused and they are afraid to ask what they are supposed to be doing. So we need to make sure that we are on the same ground with our students. We are on the same bandwidth, right? Okay, so this is the difference between CCQs and ICQs. ICQs for instructions, CCQs for concept, for comprehension, to check they understand the meaning and they are following with you. Okay, and this is the semi-controlled practice. Now, we have the third one, and the third one is the most important one, which is the free or not free. Because some teachers say free practice. No, it's not free practice, it's freer practice. And in the freer practice, students should be working with 2 skills, two kinds of productive skills, speaking or writing. So here I'm focusing on what? Writing. And they are gonna work in what? In groups. They are gonna do what? Short story about a problem that happened. This is the topic. This is the topic that they are gonna write about. What they are gonna do, this is up to them. So they are free to do what they want, to write about what they want. But the most important thing is that they are supposed to use the target language. And what is the target language? The passive form. In which tense? Past and present. Not any passive form. No, in the past and the present. Okay. So in this lesson, I worked with 3 types of practice: controlled, semi-controlled, and freer. Is this what you have to do in each class? No, you can just, it's enough for you to use the controlled practice, and you need freer practice. Semi-controlled is not so important, okay? And in the free practice, freer here we need to give them more time. Why? Because we need to check their output. Their output is so important. Okay, what I'm supposed to be doing after this? What I'm gonna be doing after this? After this, if I have time, I will collect, I have to monitor. Okay? How? I'm gonna go through the groups with a pencil and paper. I will see their mistakes and I will write down these mistakes in my note. And after they finish, and after we finish discussion, I will write some examples of these mistakes on the board. And then we will discuss them together, okay? Yes, feedback. I believe the time will not be enough for freer task. This is the most important thing, Mr. Han. This is the most important thing. Student must produce the language and give feedback. Yeah, Mr. Han, we in teaching grammar in the last session, I talked about the gap between theory and practice. If I give my students some questions as a controlled practice, they will answer all the questions correctly. But when I ask them to write a paragraph, they will make a lot of mistakes. So how to solve this? I need to make my session more student-centered and to give and assign more time to the production task. I have to assign more time for the production task because this is the most important thing. Okay, how you are having an online session? How could you move between groups? How would they do it online? Actually, I now in the beginning I divided you into breakout rooms. In the breakout rooms, after giving you the instructions, you are supposed to be working together. As an admin, now I'm the admin of this session. I have the opportunity and I have the access for, I'm so sorry. Yes, I have the access for joining any room. So for example, Miss Asma is working with Miss Minna. I can jump into the room to see what you're gonna do. Okay, so I have this, this ability. Mr. Muhammad, thank you, Mr. Muhammad, thank you. Thank you for sending this me privately. It takes more time, yeah, it takes more time, but it's also up to your lesson plan. You are the one who can assign your plan. So manage your time, manage your own time, Miss Asma. So see what you have to be doing, because so this is the most important thing, planning your lesson. And planning the lesson takes much time in order to follow the steps that you want to do in your mind. So lesson plan is so important. Okay, so let's see here. I want to ask a question. Let's go back to the lesson plan here. Here we have 5 objectives. Do you think I fulfilled the 5 objectives here? Yes or no? Write this in your chat bar. After this session, do you think I fulfilled the 5 objectives? Yes or no? Just type yes, type no. Mr. Muhammad Assam says yes. Yeah. Except the pronunciation part. Excellent. Yes. Thank you, Ms. Asma. Thank you very much. So although I prepared this session well, I dropped out something. So we have here personal, I have to write this. We have something called, guys, self-reflection. Self-reflection. In self-reflection, after the session, I have to recall what happened. After I recalled what happened, I discovered that I didn't give much attention to the pronunciation part. I dropped this out. I forgot this. So I will write in my personal objectives, I need to focus more on the pronunciation part of the coming rule. If I'm gonna take another rule, I have to focus on the pronunciation part. But of course, there are some points to discuss. Okay, Mr. Samah, what are these points I need to discuss with you? If you want to raise your hand, please. If you want to discuss anything, Mr. Samah, please raise your hand. So I could fulfill and finish all the objectives. I identified the passive form in the present and past tense. I answered some MCQs. You answered MCQs. You played online. You were supposed to write some sentences together. Okay, wait a minute. Thank you very much, guys. I need to ask a question. Okay, Miss Dua, if you want to ask a question, if you want to raise your hand, I would like to. Yes, okay. I'm trying to unmute you now. Okay.
Hi, Mr. Islam.
Hi, Ms. Dua, how are you?
I'm fine. I need to ask you a question. Why did you focus only on one usage of the passive? Usually when I explain something like this, I focus on all the usages.
I said
Why
here
only one usage?
I said here I'm gonna be focusing on the course book. So let's suppose that my course book just mentioned this. And this is number one. Number two,
okay.
The level of the students is elementary.
Yes.
So in the elementary stage, according to the course book just mentioned the missing subject, and that's it. So I have to stick to this and focus on this meaning.
Okay.
You got it?
I got it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So guys, let's suppose that you are sticking to a specific course book, and this course book is guiding you to focus on a specific meaning. If he said 2 meanings, 3 meanings, you have to include them in your lesson plan. Okay, Mr. Samah raised his hand. He didn't raise his hand, but I'm gonna unmute him, okay? Mr. Samah, I'm gonna unmute you. I'm trying. Thanks, Mr.
Yes, Mr. Islam. Yes, Mr. I think I didn't raise my hand.
Okay, I thought you want to discuss something. You said you want to discuss something, so if you wanted, yeah, I can hear you. Okay, no problem, Mr. Samah, because there is something with the connection. Does anyone need to ask any question? Where I can get that course book? Actually, there is no course book. We are acting as if we have a course book. We are acting, Mr. Muhammad, as if we have a course book. I mean by the course book, maybe your school book. The school book is the course book. Or if you are teaching an ESL.
Hello?
Yes, Mr. Sam, I can hear you. Okay, Miss Asma, I want to ask a question. Yes, Miss Asma.
Yes, I need to ask, you explained a part of the structure. ده بس علشان you later will explain the rest of the structure.
Where exactly? What do you mean by the part of the structure? Lower past and present?
Here, but you said that we can discuss that in the feedback after the session.
I thought you wanted to
asked the purpose of using this structure. It has many purposes other than the one you explained. Yeah. So, يعني المفروض in the real classroom you will explain it later in another session.
I don't get your question. What do you mean another structure? You mean other tenses?
Yes, other tenses مش عارف other forms of the same structure. Yeah.
Okay, if you want to say the meaning itself, if we have other reasons to use passive, I have to stick to the course book. If the course book focus on this meaning, I have to include it in my lesson plan. If the
So
course
you
book
don't
told
give
me
the
that
whole,
no, I have to stick to what the course book says. So we imitate or we act as if the course book for the elementary stage, and this is my answer to Ms. Dua. In the elementary stage, they have to focus only on one meaning, which is the missing subject. If my course book added anything else, I have to include it in my lesson plan, not to exclude it. I have to stick to what my course book says. If the school book or the course book says only one meaning, so only one meaning. Past simple and present simple structure. So I have to stick to this, not to add or to omit something. Okay. So you need to prepare well, read the course book well, and decide what is the level of your students. So we are acting as if you are elementary students, and the course book says only one meaning and only past and present tenses. This is my lesson. So I structured or planned my lesson according to this instructions in the course book. You got it, Ms. Asma? What if I added things? This is a good question. In order to answer this question, Mr. Muhammad, did you write this in your lesson objectives? What you want to add in the middle of class? And some ideas came from nowhere to you in your mind. Was this mentioned in your lesson objectives? No, it wasn't mentioned, so don't say it. Don't say it. You have to stick to your lesson objectives. Because if I'm an observer, I will compare between the objectives that you have written and what you are doing now. If I found something missing or something added, I have to ask you. So you need to structure your plan well. So some teachers actually might spend about 4 hours planning the lesson. In my CELTA, as I remember, we were supposed to do 8 TPs, 8 teaching practices. And I was spending a lot of time in planning my lesson. And I was always, late in submitting my lesson plan. Why? Because I'm imagining what will happen in my class, every single point. So each time I have to build and destroy my lesson plan until I reach the ideal form of the lesson plan. Okay, so you need to take or to spend much time in planning your lesson and imagine what would happen. Imagine the problems that you might encounter, anticipate what would happen, and get ready for that. And after the session, make some sort of self-reflection. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. You were great today, guys. I'm so honored to have you. Finally, if you have any question, if anyone wants to talk with me, I'm ready. Just raise your hand. Ms. Asma, do you want to speak? Because you raised your hand. Can I mute you? No? Okay, you lowered your hand. Okay. So again, just to close this session, the closure of this session.
Mr. Islam, please, can you talk about the objectives of the lesson plan?
Okay.
Further information, how you form the sentences and so on.
Okay, thank you for focusing on this part. We have 10 minutes, and I'm gonna focus on this very quickly. In order to write lesson aims, hold a second. Number 1, my lesson aim should be specific. Should be what? Should be specific. So we will write this here. Specific. Number 2, it should be measurable. How it should be measurable? Look at this, please. Answer some MCQs to practice the target language. This is how my objective will be measurable, because my students will answer some questions. I will evaluate the output. So if the output is okay, this means that they are following. If the output is not okay, I have to focus on the missing part. So this is how my objective can be measured. Is this I'm following with the target language or not? Number two, in the measurable, to play an online game. Again, the output can be measured. The answers of the students will help me to evaluate and gauge their performance. And what's the meaning of specific? Let's see here. I'm talking about the passive form in the present and past tenses. Present simple, I mean, and past simple tenses. I'm talking about what? The meaning, form, pronunciation. So this is how it's specific. Number three, it should be achievable. What do I mean by achievable? For example, I give here 3 questions, MCQ questions, and here I think 7 questions. So maximum we have 10 questions. This is achievable. According to the time of my lesson, it's achievable. But it's actually doesn't make sense if I give my students 40 questions. This will not be helpful. I can't achieve this. So I have to ask some specific question, maximum 10 questions as a control practice to check whether they are following or not. So this is the meaning of achievable. Number 4, it should be time bound. I mean, when I say 3 minutes, this task should take, 2 minutes. I'm just giving them 1 extra minute for the struggling or lower achievers, okay? But I am not supposed to form a task that really takes 5 minutes and I tell them you have only 2 minutes. This is ridiculous. This doesn't make sense. So it should be time bound. And also, can I achieve all these 5 objectives in a 45-minute class? I'm gonna be doing this. If yes, so this is my time management. I succeeded in timing my class well. The last one is student-centered. I mean by student-centered that the students should be doing the whole job, the whole work should be done by the students, not me. Here, if you read well these objectives, you will not read what the teacher is gonna do. No, you will not. I'm not talking about a procedure of the teacher. It's not a procedures of what the teacher is gonna be doing. No, it always focus on the students. The students will write, the students will play, the students will answer, the students will identify. Okay, so I can't say I will give them a task. This is not an objective because this is related to the teacher. This is not an objective. An objective should be related to the students, student-centered. So this is how you need to focus on, what you need to focus on when you write your objectives. 5 things. Your object should be specific, measurable, achievable, time-bound, and last, not least, student-centered. You got it? So if you have any other question, please tell me. Okay, someone raised his hand. Okay, Mr. Muhammad, I think, yeah. I'm unmuting you. Yes.
So as far as I remember, that we should put some minutes. For example, if I ask about the aim number 2, MCQs, for example, we will say it should take 2 minutes.
Okay.
So should we put the time for this aim as far as I remember from my college?
Actually, I'm going to talk about my own experience in CELTA. When we were writing objectives, we were not told to mention time. This time was mentioned. Hold a second. I'm going to show you something here. Look here. Yes, here. Can you see this with me? This should be mentioned here in the timing when you plan the procedures here. Here I have the time for each stage and the interaction patterns. This is the interaction pattern. I'm gonna work as teacher to student or students together. SS means pair work, or SSS, like this one, group work. And here I have the timing. So the observer is watching me. I wrote here 5 minutes. So in this stage, the observer is following me. Did I stick to the 5 minutes or not? And I should give my task beforehand, before the session start. The task should be given to the observer to see whether this task actually is accurately managed according to time or not. Okay, so this is not mentioned in the objectives. I'm specific about what I'm gonna be doing exactly, but not to the limit of mentioning or writing the time. We haven't done this, and we didn't do this in the CELTA. They were just focusing on this in the stage part. I read the time, then the interaction pattern. So the name of the stage, it's a lead in. What is the aim? What is the stage aim of this stage? To get students engaged and involved in the class. Okay. Contextualization for here. Why I'm doing contextualization? To get students exposed to the target language. And here I'm explaining what I'm gonna do. And here the language clarification. I'm clarifying what the MFP, the meaning, form, and pronunciation. And here, if you notice, look here. I asked some questions here. I wrote the questions, and here I wrote my CCQs. So the observer is following up with me. Did I ask these questions or not? So what are these questions? Titanic built itself? No. Someone built it? Yes. Is he known? No. Is it built now? No. So these are the CCQs to check their comprehension. So this was mentioned in the procedure part. And here for the pronunciation, I wrote here what the transcription was built, were printed, okay? And here the students are supposed to be drilling after me. So everything is written in the lesson plan for the observer. So if you are an observer now for this session and you are already an observer, you have to compare between what I wrote here and what I've done in the class. If I wrote 3 minutes, did this task really took 3 minutes or not? Were the students comfortable with the time or not? Did they struggle? Do you think that they needed much more time? You have to tell me this in your post-observation feedback. You have to tell me, okay, Mr. Islam, actually you wrote here 3 minutes, but I think they needed more time. So I actually recommend that you would like, in the future, you would make it 5 minutes, not 3 minutes. You got it?
Yes, I got you.
Thank you.
I have another question.
Okay, please.
Do you look for some websites, or some websites helps you to write your aims, because your aims are creative?
I can't understand this, please. Can you repeat it?
Yeah, for example, this is about passive, right?
Okay, yeah.
Do you use some websites, or some websites helps you to write your aims because your aims are creative, or did you create them by yourself?
This is by myself. I read, for example, the course book, and I started to think what I'm gonna supposed to be doing. What is the goals? What are the goals that I need to achieve by the end of this lesson? I have to, you know, to imagine what my students need to learn by the end of this lesson according to my course book. Okay, so there are no websites that form the objectives for you. No, you have to do that to do this by yourself. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we have less than 1 minute. I would like to thank you very much. The course should be on how to plan. Actually, I did this before. I did a session about how to write objectives, lesson objectives. Time is mentioned in the procedures. Yes, excellent. So guys, thank you very much. I was honored to have you. I hope to see you, inshallah, in my future sessions. Thank you very much. I need you to give your feedback in the group, please.